All right, folks, let's get into it. Let's talk about all seven generation of the NASCAR cars. I'm going to rank them. And then I'm also at the very end try to explain and show what the NASCAR series should be striving for, what their Generation 8 should go into, and all that jazz. Now, ranking these bad boys, there's kind of three criteria. If I go a little off of it, that's fine. It's my list. So one is performance, two is how the car looks, and three is the creativity, how much you can manipulate, how much you can cheat, whatever you want to use for that word. But let's get into it right away. And yes, I am wearing a Casey Kane shirt. I'm filming on Friday. It's fucking Casey Kane Friday, so deal with that. Let's get off to a hot start. Number seven on the list is the Generation 1. Generation 1 from 1948 all the way to 1966. This is the first generation car. We had like Lee Petty in there. I'll spout some facts off here for you guys. And for anyone that doesn't want to do any math, that's 18 years that they ran this car. In that 18-year gap, there was about 77 different winners, give or take. Lee Petty was the number one most winningest driver in that time period with 54 wins. Then we had Herb Thomas, Ned Jarrett, Richard Petty, and Buck Baker. Also in that, there was 11 different champions, and then the most winningest champion in that era was Lee Petty with 3 championships. They also had like 7+ manufacturers that you could choose from. So just to kind of give you some background on that, it wasn't a terrible car by any means. It was just a street car. It was a street car that NASCAR started off with. It was the beginning. They hit the ground running with it. It was not a terrible car, but it was just a passenger car. Towards the end of it, they were doing a little more manipulation with it, but it was literally like a showroom, off the showroom car. And I know people are like, "Oh, you should go back to stock cars. Go back to stock cars. Getting off coming off the showroom floor." Don't do that. That's stupid. If they were to pull a Camaro off the showroom floor and drive that, I'd be like, this is the dumbest thing ever. Please don't do that. Please don't ever do that. It doesn't intrigue me. I highly doubt it intrigues many people to be like, wow, they're driving on the racetrack. I'm gonna buy that car. Maybe it worked back then. It doesn't work now. Um, Now, on the other hand, does it make you want to go buy a Chevy to help out your driver? Like, for instance, Kyle Larson drives a Chevy. Maybe for my next car, I'm going to buy a Chevy just to help out Kyle Larson because he is sponsored by Chevy or William Byron or Kyle Busch or that, That's a possible thing. But I'm not being like, oh, I drive a Camaro. I'm gonna go get a Camaro. No, that doesn't happen. I'm not gonna say it doesn't happen, but very low. They need to figure out their marketing and change it up, and that's what we're going to talk about later in the show. Where I think they should go with this because it's brilliant. But continuing on, that's Generation 1. It's nothing special. It's just it has to be there. It wasn't bad, but it kind of set the bar, and now everything above it should be better. And it is because we're starting at 7. So let's go on to number 6. Number 6 is going to be the Gen 2. The Gen 2. I know we're going in order. How lame. But hear me out here. So again, for everyone that it ran from 1967 to what 1980. So that's 13 years. So did the math for you guys. Don't have to worry about that. In that time period, there was 39 different winners. And in that also time period, Richard Petty was the most winningest driver in that time period with 114 wins. Then we had Bobby Allison, Cale Yarborough, David Pearson, Darrell Waltrip. Also, they had 6 different champions in that era, and the person that won the most in that era was Richard Petty with 6. So, in 13 years, Richard Petty won 6 championships. Which isn't terrible. Not terrible at all. Manufacturers, they had like 7+ manufacturers, so a ton of manufacturers to choose from. Now, this car performed better. They looked better because cars were, aging rapidly better for the better. So they looked better. There was a little more manipulation, more people messing around with stuff. Um, Darrell Waltrip talks about a bunch of that stuff. Many other drivers do, not just Darrell Waltrip. He just popped in my head right now. So, yeah, so it's a good car. It's better than the first gen. Um, it did well. Richard Petty won 114 races, so Either he was just that much better than everyone, or there was a little bit of he had a little better what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know. He was just better. So, and that's not bad. That's not a bad thing. But it just they weren't as pretty. They weren't a race car. It was still getting it off the dealership and then maybe manipulating it a little bit more. So don't get me wrong, they're not bad cars. I don't hate them, but they got to sit somewhere. And number six is their spot. So let's move on. Let's get into a little more exciting stuff, the stuff that I know a little more, the stuff that I've actually seen on the track. Um, Besides the Gen 3, I can only watch that on TV, old races. So number five, and if I could rank this thing lower, I would, is the Gen 7, the next gen, the car they're driving right now. I would put this car below the other ones, but it doesn't go along with the system. Like that doesn't make sense because this car does perform better. It does look a little better, even though the number's in the wrong spot. Um, but you can't manipulate it at all. So it's really close, to be honest with you. I could flip the Gen 7 and the Gen 2 around, honestly. And to give you a little more facts, obviously they started in 2022. They're still driving it today in 2025. This is their fourth season running it. They've had 33 different winners in not even four freaking full seasons. Keep track of those numbers because that should tell you something. That is way too many winners in that amount of time period. And in the top five, most wins in this era in the Gen 7 is Kyle Larson with 15. Then we got William Byron, Christopher Bell, Denny Hamlin, and Joey Logano. There's been two different champions, and Joey Logano has won the most so far with two. And there's only three manufacturers, obviously. To get in this car a little more, it's an absolute pile of shit. Um, the performance is absolute ass, and every person that's like, it performs well out of a half mile or sorry, not a half mile. It is the absolute dog shit on a half mile. Um, Mile and a half. Don't get me wrong, it's an okay race, but I'm not going to lower my bar to be like, that's a great race. No, that's the best thing it can do. That is literally the best thing it can do. And all it does is keep them all in a pack, a longer pack, not like a pack that we're thinking of, like three fucking wide. No, we're talking like they're all stay within the same length. And then when the leader catches the lap traffic, they all kind of slink back together like a slinky. That's not racing. That's, I don't even know, slot cars. Fucking stupid. So, yeah, it's an absolute atrocious car. It doesn't perform worth shit. Doesn't look the greatest either. The number fucking is terrible. Don't even get me started on that. How the number slid forward so far to make room for sponsors, which look at any sponsor on any of the cars nowadays. No one uses the whole thing, so it's a joke. Whatever. I would like to actually die on that hill. Because if you look in the background over there, I refuse to buy any new next gen cars because they're ugly as fucking fuck. Yeah, I said that. Um, I don't want to. I don't want to display a car that has a number up front. Sorry. So you won't be catching me buying one of them. Um, so yeah, terrible car. You can't manipulate it. Does a terrible job at road courses. Um, Atrocious at short tracks, and the super speedway package is lackluster because all you're doing is watching them fuel save and be like, well, who's going to be the guy that mistakes, crashes, and then who's the nobody that's been riding around the back that's going to win? We're having a great day. Such a joke. Also, on this point, they wanted to create parity and more different people racing like at the front. That takes away from when you have these one-off winners, when you have these storybook finishes, when you have these people that don't ever win. It wrecks it. All people are talking about is points. Then they're like, that guy shouldn't get in the playoffs. And it's like, dude, Harrison Burton. Um, who's another one? I can't even think of another one right now. Austin Cindric. When those guys win, it should be celebrated. I know I just picked two Penske drivers, um, but they should be celebrated. Like that's an accomplishment. Like they're probably not going to get back there anytime soon, and that's an accomplishment. But instead, it's garbage, and that doesn't happen if you don't have parity. If you have good cars and bad cars, the bad cars do have good days and good cars at times. Look back at any of the era of NASCAR. And that's what makes it exciting and fun. And if you can't see that, you should probably go watch a different sport or learn about this sport to enjoy it because this is just wrecking it for everyone. So if you can't get that gist of this whole video, the Gen 7 is the biggest piece of crap to this day on 425 of 2022 25. It is the worst. And I would love to rank it below the other two, but it is just a snippet better. So let's be done talking about that car for now, because it's a piece of garbage. When I take shits, I'm like, holy shit, was that an next gen in the toilet? Fuck. Get that thing out of here. Flush. Woo, gone. On to number four. Number four, we're going with the Gen 5, the COT, the car tomorrow. Now, this car was an ugly fucking car. Terrible looking, but it performed pretty fucking well. Not right away in the very, very like instantaneous, but that car got progressively better and better and better. And so it wasn't run very long. It was run from 2007 to 2012, 5 years. That's all it was run, 5 years. And in those 5 years, there was 34 winners. Now let's rewind a little bit. The Gen 7, who were just barely into the fourth year, 10 races in, and they have 33 different winners. They're one away from tying. That should tell you something. That should not be. You should not have that. So, but going back to or sorry, I read the wrong one. I apologize. Reading's difficult. The Gen 5 only had 29 different winners in 5 years. So they already passed it. Yikes. Yeah. And in that era, the five most winningest drivers was one Jimmy Johnson with 32 wins, Kyle Busch, Denny Hamlin, Tony Stewart, and Carl Edwards. There were three different, yeah, I did that. Three different um, champions in that era. Obviously, we know who won the most, Jimmy Johnson with four. And then they had four manufacturers in there. That was the last time they had four. This car, like I said, performance-wise, did well. With that big ass wing looking thing on the back, it was subpar. It kind of was the whole car was ugly as fuck. Um, but when they got that thing off there and put a spoiler back on, it wasn't a terrible car by any means. Did it look pretty? No. Would I buy one and display one? Yeah, I actually would. Because as time goes on, it resonates and it looks good. And people are gonna be like, oh, the Gen 7's gonna be the same way. No, it won't. I guarantee you that. That thing is ugly, ugly, ugly. Um, but yeah, you could manipulate it. There was many things that people did. Obviously, Jimmy Johnson was winning a ton in that era. So I should tell you a lot. And Chad Knaus was the master at manipulating or cheating or whatever you want to call it. But it's a part of NASCAR. And that's not really a part of NASCAR anymore. Yeah, there's a few things every once in a while, but it's nothing like it used to be. And that's sad. That's so sad because that was something different that they did compared to other sports. And I don't like to compare NASCAR with ball and stick sports because they're completely different. But that was one way that people could enjoy a different sport. So on to number three. Number three, and some people hated this car, and I truly don't understand why. I don't. The Gen 6, the one before 7. Um, it was run from 2013 to 2021. That's 8 years. I almost said 7, 8. In that time period, there was 34 different winners. They, excuse me, I had Chipotle earlier. Chipotle Fridays. Um, Kevin Harvick won the most with 39. Then we had Kyle Busch, Martin Truex Jr., Brad Keselowski, and then Joey Logano. And then in those 8 years, we had 7 different winners for champions. And who won the most championships in that era? Jimmy Johnson and Kyle Busch with 2. So they tied. And then there was 3 different manufacturers. Yeah, people hated this car. And I understand why people hated this car. But in hindsight, if NASCAR would have just stayed with the high horsepower, low downforce, this car I think would have been very true and similar to the Gen 4. Very, very similar. Very close. But instead, they started playing around with all these different things. And which I don't fault them for that, but when it's not working or it's kind of a joke and it's like you're the top series. The top series should be the fastest, the most baddest, the biggest, baddest cars out there. It should not be. You shouldn't have to dog down your second 2 tiers because you're trying to dog the whole system down. You're not the top series anymore. You're not. Plain and simple. And this is the beginning of the end of where NASCAR seems wants to die. Let's less horsepower. Saving teams money. I'm sorry if NASCAR went out of business because it got too expensive. I wouldn't be mad at all. I'd be like, wow, it just got way too fucking expensive. And you know what would happen? Another thing would blossom from there. Another racing series. But now they're just limping along, just trying to, well, just lower the horsepower. Get a lot of drag downforce on these bad boys. No, 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 no. So again, this car performed pretty decently. The only time it was a really piece of pile of garbage, and people like to just point at this little fucking section, and then it's like, oh, this whole Gen 6 was terrible. No, no. At the end, I believe it was from 2019. I don't know. Crucify me if I'm wrong. 2019 to 2021, they had that 550 package at the mile and a half. That was absolute garbage. Oh, but short tracks are great. We had really great road courses. The super speedway package was great. That's 3 out of the 4. That's great. And you're bitching about one fucking section. It's completely opposite of that now. And I wouldn't even give the mile and a half a good fucking race. That's like garbage. That's garbage racing. It's gross. It's the best thing that the car does, so it's great. No, don't lower your standards. Don't be like that. Don't be a person to lower your standards. Keep your standards high. If you keep your standards high, others around you will keep their standards high. But when we all sink down in the mud and are like, yeah, I guess it's kind of good. No. Strive for excellence, strive for greatness, strive to be the best of the best that you can be or the best that you want to see. If you don't do that, you're doomed to fail and doomed to just be in a mud pit. You want to be in a mud pit? Enjoy the mud pit, you little fucking pigs. All right. We'll get off course again. Um, let's move on. So I don't think have anything else more to say with the Gen 6. If they would have stayed high horsepower, low downforce, I think that car would have been brilliant. Probably would have been very damn close to a Gen 4. Let's move on to the number 2 spot. The number 2 spot is Gen 3. Gen 3, I wasn't around. Well, I wasn't around to watch, unfortunately, because they stopped. Let me get you the numbers here. So the Gen 3 was from 1981 to 1991. So right when they ended it, I was born. And yeah, so that ran for 10 years, 34 different winners in 10 years. And the uh, majority of winners or top five winners in that Gen 3 era was Darrell Waltrip at 54, then Dale Earnhardt, Bill Elliott, Bobby Allison, and Tim Richmond. Tim Richmond, I feel like if I was alive and watching back then, I would have very much enjoyed that guy. Um, Championships, there were six different champions. The person that won the most in the Gen 3 era was Dale Earnhardt with four. And there were seven different manufacturers in that Gen 3 era, which is pretty fucking amazing. Towards the end of it, it would got dwindled down, but in the beginning, there was a good amount of choices there. Um, so to go off that one, the Gen 3 was a great car. It was coming off Gen 2. They shortened the wheelbase, they shortened the whole car down to basically what a stock car is. Still had characteristics of what a showroom car had, but it wasn't a showroom car, which that's what I love. I love that. It's a race car with just a sprinkle, just a little bit. Just give me just that little bit. And I'll elaborate on that a little more after I crown a champion because this is what NASCAR's missing, and I don't see how they can't see this. So, but going back to Gen 3 was when Big Daddy Earnhardt got that black car that we all love and know today. Well, not all of us do. There's still people that don't like Dale Earnhardt, which honestly most people didn't like. Well, it was polarizing. I'll just say it. So, um, but yeah, it very good time. The car just worked. It worked. They were slightly all different, and that's what makes the racing really good. Like when you look back at all these different eras, the Gen 1, the Gen 2, the Gen 3, the Gen 4, all four of those, they were very same but slightly different characteristics from the makes, which maybe one made it faster at a super speedway. Maybe one made it had more aerodynamic grip. Maybe one just did better on short tracks. Maybe one manufacturer made more horsepower. There was just for those four generations, that that is what held the key to what great racing is. Now you go into the Gen 5, they got rid of that. Everything was the same. It's a completely cookie cutter race car. But everything else, engine, the manufacturer still had control of that and they could make a little more power. I'm rambling now. But those four generations is what NASCAR should be trying to harness. Gen 6 kind of did that. They went back to it after the Gen 5. Gen 7. Yeah, there's different characteristics. Yeah, it looks like a street car. Yeah. But it's a Lego freaking car. And yeah, I'm using that from every other freaking podcaster that uses that, but it is a Lego car. It's just put together exactly the same. Hey, we're doing a Pinewood Derby. No one can make their own Pinewood Derby. You have to follow this exact same thing. Guess what? How much fun is that? Would you watch a Pinewood Derby race if every car had to be the same? Fuck no. So, suck on that one. On to number one, and you know which one this is King Daddy, the Gen 4. I love this car. This is the car that I started watching NASCAR with um, in the early 2000s, late 90s. I would say like 2000, 2001. But I've watched all of 1999. I've watched all of 1998. I'm working on 2000 again. I just love those races. They're fucking great races. Um, but not to get too far out of the weeds, that went from 1992 to 2007, which was arguably almost one of their longest sections with 15 years. The only other car that beat that out was the very first generation. They had 49 different winners in those 15 years. When you look at that number, that 49 different people in 15 years. That should be studied and looked at. There's that's like the perfect amount. You can't get any more perfect than that. And any person that's like, oh, just nostalgia. It's not. Go watch it and look at it through just the idea of pure racing. It's fucking great. But in those five in that generation, Gen 4, the top five winners, Jeff Gordon at 78 wins, Rusty Wallace, Dale Jarrett, Tony Stewart, and Mark Martin. And then in that 15 years that they ran that Gen 4, they had 10 different champions. 10 different champions. That doesn't get any fucking better. And then the person that won the most championships was Jeff Gordon, 4. And I didn't even look at the second one, but I'm pretty sure who won 2? Tony Stewart? I think Tony Stewart was the only other one. So like, how? You looking for parity? You're looking for pure racing? This gives you both. Literally both. You can't get much better than that. And there's 4 different makes through that era. Actually, I think, isn't that wrong? That was 6. Sorry, I read the wrong one. Can't read again. That was 6 different because we had Chevy, Ford, Toyota, Dodge, Pontiac. And I'm missing one. I'm not even going to worry about it. uh, yeah. So there you go. Gen 4, King Daddy. Beautiful looking car. Performed absolutely the best on any racetrack. You can maybe give it a little like, no, don't do that for the mile and a half towards the end of its life. Just because they're getting such great, like the Twisted Sister and all that. But like, I don't know, man. I would 1,000 times rather watch those. Yeah, there's dirty air, but they could still get to the back of the car and give them a little, ooh, get them out of the way. You could still do that. So there you guys go. That's all the generations in order, how I ranked them. I love everything about it. The only thing I would probably change is maybe move that Gen 7 down to the spot 6 and move that Gen 2 up to 5. It's very touchy for me. So let me know what you guys think for your order. And let's finally talk about how NASCAR should go into the Gen 8. Now I know that NASCAR is looking for another make. Dodge is for sure coming back into the Truck Series. Who knows if they're going to come into the Cup Series? You shouldn't be catering to um, other makes. The makes should want to come into your sport because it's a great sport. It's fun. It's exciting. People are watching. We want to be a part of that. You don't lower your standards or lower what you have to be just to let someone in. Don't ever do that. That's the worst thing ever. That's the worst thing for a business. That's the worst thing for your relationship. That's the worst thing for everything. You will run into trouble and it will be bad. Hence, where NASCAR is now. Now, let's get into the Gen 8. What I think they should do with the Gen 8. I think it should go back to the teams. The teams should be building these cars and they should be going through everything that they can do. Basically, like what they were doing in the Gen 6, the Gen 7, or sorry, the Gen 6, not the Gen 7, the Gen 6, they did some stuff on 5, but it was, and the Gen 4. Those 3 eras, they need to get back to that. Obviously, not the Gen 5 body. Now, what they would do with the body, and I brought some diecast to the table here. And I know we have Pontiac, and Pontiac isn't a part of this, but we're just putting it on here for the sake of it because this is a beautiful car. Pontiac made a beautiful fucking stock car. And Warbird never raced this paint scheme. This is just a chrome one. But if you can use your imagination, the chrome should all be white. And then he did drive that car. So, But then we got the Dale Jr. car. Um, Never really was a huge Dale Jr. fan, so I don't know really know why I have this, but shout out to Dale Jr. Guy's great for the sport. um, let's look at this one first. This car looks absolutely gorgeous. That is a beautiful front end, sleek sides. The ass end looks fucking great. And you can get the idea by looking at this. Why am I holding it so high? That it's a Monte Carlo, you know? Everyone all knew that. And honestly, who honestly cares? I don't care that it's a Monte Carlo. I don't. Do not give a flying fuck. I know it's a Chevy. So, and the way that everyone's going now for cars, I know we're getting off a little tangent here, but it's gonna rope back in, so don't worry. This car right here has a Chevy emblem on it. People know that. People follow Dale Jr. They follow him for everything. They're going to buy Budweiser because that's a sponsor and they want to support him. And you know what they're going to do? They're going to go buy a Chevy truck. They're most likely not going to go buy a Chevy Monte Carlo. Yeah, there are some people that did do that back in the day. Okay, don't crucify me for that either. But if you wanted whatever, they bought it because that Chevy symbol. It's not showing up on there, but just take my word for it. They bought it for that. So they went out to a Chevy dealership and bought that. And that helps. That helps. That helps Dale Jr. Now, they need to get back to a car like this. I know a lot of people don't have cars like this. Like Chevy doesn't have a car. They only have like the Corvette. But I've been dragging you guys on for this long. This is what's going to be awesome and would be so cool because if if NASCAR would just get back to letting them build the car like this, let's just say hypothetically it's a Gen 4 and they'll just update it so it's safer, go through the whole cage, go through the whole greenhouse. If they got to make it a little bigger, go for it. But yeah, get back to this similar body style like this. And then what the teams get to do, they get to choose an era that can, as long as Chevy is still around, they can run Chevy, any Chevy front end that they can use one now, today's, if they want to, or they could use an older one. It doesn't matter, but Chevy would still back them. You couldn't switch from race to race. Whatever one you chose, you had to stick with that for that whole year. And I think that would help out a ton. And I mean, team wise. So, like, for instance, Rick Hendrick, they would have to, let's say they chose this Monte Carlo body. All four of their cars would have to be that. Then, if Trackhouse, being another Chevy team, let's just say they wanted to do the SS body. Um, that I think it was Gen 6 around that time. They wanted to use that body. They could. And I don't mean body, I mean the front fascia and the rear fascia. Everything else in the middle would be very similar. Um, and that's where we keep the similarities. Be very similar like this. You just got to choose the front clip, hood, and the rear clip. And that would have to obviously be the same. You can't mix and match. But they would get to choose that as a team. The whole team would have that. That would create not parity. You would create different cars, different aerodynamics, difference. Different is good. Different creates competition. Different creates ingenuity. Did I mention competition? So that's so they wouldn't be able to use the Pontiac front. Pontiac doesn't exist anymore. But if Dodge came back into the sport, you have a Casey Kane back there. I'm not going to pull it out though. They could choose, the Intrepid, the Charger. Yeah, I think those are the only ones they really used. But here's the cool thing: any new cars that they have, or older ones, if they wanted to bring it back, like heavens forbid, I don't know why they want to do this, but if they wanted to use like a Dodge Viper front end, I don't know how they would do the back end, but I'm just spitballing right now. But you get what I'm spitting out, hopefully. that they get to choose. So then in year two came around, they could choose that same one. They could try a different one. It's always going to keep the ball moving and always going to keep these teams thinking because that's what we need to do. Because if you don't, these teams are smart, they figure shit out, and then look where we're at now. Look where we're at now. I wasn't even planning on talking more about this, but you know what? You guys got me in a good mood. Let's talk about this real quick. Let's just count on our little phone here how many different winners we've had so far this year. We've had William Byron, that's one. Two, Christopher Bell. Three, Josh Berry. Four, Kyle Larson. Five, Denny Hamlin. In 10 races, half of them have been won by the same people. And that is going to continue, and it is only going to get worse. And I know I'm arguing against myself a little there because we don't want parity, but they can only do so much with this car. There's not a lot of ingenuity. And if you went back to this style of car where there's ingenuity, people would blow other people's doors off. Don't get me wrong. We're gonna have blowouts, but that's what makes it fun. And that's what makes the TV people, the announcers, the reporters, they need to go get the stories. They need to make it interesting. They need to inform people. I know what's going on. I can go find it myself. But you little crybabies who can't understand racing, apparently, just cry to cry. But I will say this. There's a lot of crying in NASCAR, and I'm crying right now. But the positive thing is, if you're crying and bringing solutions like this, it's better than just whining and doing nothing. So think about that. That's all I got for you guys. Hope you guys made it to the end of this video. If you didn't, well, you're never going to hear me anyways. So uh, I'm going to have some more of these videos coming out that will talk about um, another fix possibly for the Gen 7. We will talk about a cap or what they should do. That's not a cap. Uh, and a bunch of other things that I will express on how they should go about stuff. I'm not saying they should take these. They can take these ideas and run with them. I don't care. It doesn't bother me. I don't even need credit. You just say you stole it from someone. I just like enjoying good racing. And right now, it's not good racing. It's mediocre at best. And if this is the top series and you're having mediocre at best racing, so have fun, everyone. Enjoy your weekend, weekday, whenever you're watching this. Leave some comments down there about how you hate everything that I've said, or how you enjoy some of it, or what you think should be tweaked. Or maybe there's an idea you can take from mine and tweak it a little bit more. I love little tweaks here, little tweaks there. Now, what am I doing? I don't know. I'm getting out of here. I'll see you guys later. My name's Lucas TA, and check out everything else we do. We do more than just NASCAR. We do all major sports. Think about it.